All right. Ready? What's up, lifers, and welcome to the Daily Standup. And I lost my line again.
Oh my!
Where we're giving you fresh new customer success ideas.
All right, cool. Okay, hold on one second.
Single day.
Ready? Yeah. What's up, lifers, and welcome to the Daily Standup, where we're giving you fresh, new customer success ideas every single day, as fresh as fruzy. I'm your host for the day, Rob Zambito, and I've got my co-hosts here, JP. Do you want to say hello?
Can you smell what lifetime value is cooking? Welcome to the Daily Standup, y'all.
And we've got Dillon here. Do you want to say hi, Dillon?
Thank you, JP, for saving it. You threw in a defunct frozen yogurt brand and didn't call out lifetime value. I was ready to fight you, but JP fixed it.
I would referee that fight. I can referee that fight any day. Like I said, the shirt is blue and white, not black.
We have fun. We have fun here. Fun here.
So today we've got an interesting topic that I have had some passionate conversations on this week. Is inbox zero a goal to strive for in customer success? We've had varying opinions so far. We've got people who say, absolutely, inbox zero is the perfection of productivity. If you miss things in customer success, you're very prone to fall behind. We've got other people who say that's a completely unrealistic standard. That is not a standard that correlates with the things that actually matter in customer success. Frankly, in a world where everyone's telling us to do more with less, this is the fat we've got to trim off of our plates. We've got to make sure that we're not holding wild standards of inbox zero when we've got to play the triage game. Let's kick it to JP. JP, what do you think?
Before you start, JP, I just want to ask a clarifying question. What is inbox zero? Like, you literally can't have anything in your inbox, or the notifications
that's a great
has to
question.
be zero.
Yeah. So there are.
You can tell I don't practice it.
The basic definition is nothing left unread at the end of each day in your inbox. It was popularized, I think it came out of the. Do you guys know the book Getting Things Done by a guy named David Allen?
Yep.
I think it came out as an extension of those circles. And I'm trying to remember the name of the person who popularized the term, but basically the idea is you shouldn't have anything unread in your inbox at the end of every day, not every week, every single day. Your entire inbox should be clear. And there are people who take that a step further and they're like, you should archive everything that you don't have anything actionable on. And it comes out of this spirit of productivity, right? The 4-hour work week crowd might subscribe to this. They might not. But I think it's really the people who think that this is the
4-hour work week?
Oh, you never read that book?
From 4 days to 4 hours?
4-hour work week is it's a book by Tim Ferriss.
Which is unrealistic ass? Okay.
It's a crazy, unrealistic ask.
Yeah. I'm just going to, first of all, say I think that both of these thoughts are right. They both sound correct to me, that it can be unrealistic, but that it also can be good. And I think it really is contextual. This is like a newer thing for me. In a situation where there's no CSP and you are really trying to find ways to stay on top of things, especially if you're in scaled or like digital CS, one of those things where it becomes more unrealistic because of the volume of the emails that you're getting, then to me, it just naturally seems to make more sense. And maybe there are ways where it wouldn't, as opposed to if you're dealing, maybe it was more commercial or enterprise, fewer accounts, then maybe it isn't as important. Again, your mileage may vary. I'll say that my thoughts are what Dillon actually said was really important, because you can get your inbox to zero, or the variation I've heard is 25, which is really just how many you have, like one page of sort of Google, right? So that you don't have to. So I think if you just have inbox zero, in other words, like no unreads, that doesn't mean that you've necessarily answered all those emails. And so the point is, yes, you want to get to inbox 0 or inbox 25 or basically have a manageable inbox. But the purpose is really to make sure nothing goes unanswered, unchecked. And so I think that along with that skill is really prioritization. And I think also, Rob, what you called out as a daily practice, I think that this is where things could get more unrealistic. So if it's like a weekly practice, maybe it's a little bit more feasible depending on where you work. If it's a daily practice, who knows? But maybe that daily practice is what keeps it from being a chunk of time. So I can see different sort of sides of it. I'm going to just end by saying I think that without a CSP, for me, it can be pretty good.
Tell me more about why the CSP can solve that for you.
If you have a CSP, typically you have some sort of customer journey that's already mapped out in it, that's connected to your customers. If there is something that's unanswered, it's typically going to have a function where it's going to notify you that you have not responded to this email. I think that it can still get missed depending on there's a misconnection somehow, but it's going to let you know, hey, you haven't responded to this. And I know because I previously used a CSP and it was really good for that. It would let you know, oh, hey, you haven't sent an email to this person in a while. I saw it wasn't perfect all the time, but I did see that in action. So I think that to me, that's why, because the CSP will help to keep you on top of your inbox naturally.
The interesting observation I have there is I just got off a call where this came up. What a CSP is doing is helping you be proactive by taking your proactive tasks and making you reactive to those tasks, which is interesting. Because now you're just like responding to the tasks. Now you have not only your inbox to handle, you've got your tasks to handle. And so some people might say, that's just more places to manage my stuff. But obviously, as we all know, if we've used a CSP before, it helps prioritize between the tasks. Dillon, I want your thoughts, though.
Do you?
I do.
I hate this idea. I hate this idea.
Oh, big
I think
surprise.
It is so stupid because what it does is it creates this snappy, punchy idea, and then it vaults it up onto a pedestal and makes those who don't do it feel guilt and feel shame, as though they are lesser, as though they don't have the virtue that people who have zero inbox have. And it loses so much of, JP, you said the magic word that we talk about so often, context around who the cares if I don't have any unread emails if I'm still not getting my done. What it's really trying to say is, are you getting the done that you have to get done? And there's a lot of other ways we can go about it. And I think we get that, but these like pithy ideas or like super marketable ideas, I think it just creates so much anxiety. Am I not doing it right if I don't have 25 or 0 emails in my inbox at the end of the day? And for that reason, I just don't like it. It's super conditional, super contextual. We're creating this lofty expectation and then applying it to everybody when this is a thing that should be applied where you deem it necessary as an individual.
But is that, Dillon, to be fair, isn't that the worst of it though? That's like the absolute worst of it, right? That is the extreme. In other words, like you're perfect. You're getting inbox 0 all the time. But what about as a practice? What about as a mindset? So it's not about just running like, not that you're just not doing your job.
Why?
But that,
you know why it's better? You know why people love it? Because the real answer is be organized and prioritize. And that's super ambiguous and not flashy. And it leaves so much room to be interpreted by the individual or even the organization. And inbox zero sounds like a friggin' military term. It sounds like an operation by the Navy SEALs sort of thing.
And take a step further, what it means to be prioritized, right? What it means to be prioritized in our roles means often stopping churn, expanding accounts, depending on your role. Your role might be different, sure, but that's often what the directive.
But you want to make sure I read my marketing, the emails I get from a CSP that's trying to sell me something every single day.
Yeah. And see, that's the problem.
That's where I'm like, but it doesn't make any sense.
That's why I'm a proud convert on this topic, because I used to be diehard inbox zero up until maybe a year and a half ago, until the point where it became completely unrealistic. And it was like when I really went all in on my business, and I was like, it's just not realistic for me to manage a business and prioritize this thing. It used to take me like a half hour at the end of every day just to clean up my inbox. And the number of years of my life that I've lost to this unrealistic standard, and this transition was hard for me, right? It was hard for me to relinquish this standard that I had. And I had to think, like, where does this come from? And it comes from my time actually managing support teams, where on our support teams, it made sense. Like we wanted to clear all the new tickets every day. But I also reconciled myself with the fact that, and this is the conversation I had earlier this week, I was talking to a support rep. She's a solo support rep at one of a company that I'm working with. And I was like, look, if you got 1,000 emails in a day, we would have no problem calling that what it is, which is completely unrealistic. That's standard. Maybe, just maybe, we're already past the point of what's realistic. And we're playing a stupid game that we've made up. We can change this game. We can change the game from being one of get the inbox to zero to being one of let me actively decide I am not going to get my inbox to zero. I'm going to play the triage game, and I'm going to master my KPIs around churn or whatever else while deliberately ignoring certain things that are not a priority for today. And that is a much more difficult, but a much more engaging and thought-provoking game to play. So
let's end it with this question, this sort of like thought experiment for everybody out there. Imagine you are in seat, you're a CSM or you're even a manager, but you have a boss you have to answer to. You have a one-on-one with your boss at the end of the day, and you cancel it and say, I'm sorry, I got to work on my inbox. I got to make sure I don't have any emails unread before the end of the day, and this meeting's in my way. And because that's an expectation, I've got to go and do that. Everybody knows that would not fly.
Inbox zero is the matrix.
But that's taking it at its surface value too.
For sure.
That's taking it at its, that means that you put that as the priority.
But the problem is, if I have to interpret the saying, and I'm interpreting it back to what I said, which is be organized and prioritize.
Yeah.
And the activity through which I do it is reaching inbox zero. Well, then, like, I don't need that. That statement becomes a smokescreen.
Yeah.
It becomes...
It's the matrix.
Yeah.
You're stuck in the
matrix.
matrix.
That people be intelligent about your language and what things mean. Don't take things literally or at the surface or to the extreme.
Yeah,
right?
Especially
really
now,
get to what things mean. Hey, that's all our time for today, folks.
Yeah. Look, at a time like now where burnout is at an all-time high and we're like, do more with less, and we're hearing that left and right, like now is the time to rethink some of the standards that we're bringing to our workplaces. So that's all our time for today. So until next time, take it easy, lifers.
See ya.
You've been listening to the Daily Standup by Lifetime Value. Please note that the views expressed in these conversations are attributed only to those individuals on this recording and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of their respective employers. For all inquiries, please reach out via email to Dillon at lifetimevaluemedia.com. Find us on YouTube at Lifetime Value, and find us on the socials at Lifetime Value Media. Until next time.